Last night, we were at the Junior Water Prize. 33 countries sent teams to Stockholm. These are high school kids, they're not in university, who produce the most marvelous and innovative thinking that it is possible to get. It's absolutely incredible. And of those 33, two were from the African continent. And they did us incredibly proud. So however weighty the challenges are that we have to face, I think from last night, for those of you who were there, we know that our future is in good hands. But let's start with the issues that we are familiar with. This is a mapping done by several members of the UN system and several academic agencies, talking about the nature of water scarcity on the African continent. And from this graph, it is fairly easy to see that one, we have many countries on the African continent that are either vulnerable or moving to stress. We can also see that as we look into the future, this situation is only going to get worse. Even the best climate change scenarios that we have looked at, the long-term scenarios, are saying that the part of the world that's going to be most affected by climate change is in fact sub-Saharan Africa. And while the rest of the world may have a 1 degree or a 2 degree or a 4 degree change in temperature rise, the concomitant increase on our continent is going to be at least double that. Which means that if the world temperature increases by 2 degrees, which is the likely scenario, the African temperature will increase by 4 degrees. So just think about the hottest day you've experienced in the last couple of years and add 4 degrees to that. That is the story of our future. If you look further around sanitation coverage on the African continent, here again the picture is quite bleak. Because where you want to be is in the blues and the greens, and everything else, the reds, the yellows, and the oranges, are in a bad space. The Executive Secretary of AMCA talked about us needing to meet the challenge of 2030, and the 2030 challenge is to organize universal access to water and sanitation for the people who are around at that time. And at that time, it will probably be just over 8 billion people. But very soon after that, only 20 years after that, we are looking at a planet of 10 billion people. So the way we engage in the SDGs, we need to be thinking about the 2050 agenda and organize for the right kind of trajectories to be able to reach that. And that is the core of what I want to talk to you about. And that is the opportunity that exists on the African continent to leapfrog into a completely new way around ensuring water security and ensuring dignified access to sanitation. Now, the global picture is telling us a story, and it has been telling us a story for the last few years. This behind me, you will see, is the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Register. It comes out in January every year. The précis is free to download, so I suggest that you do that. And what it tells you is what the principal risks are, not to the public sector, but to the private sector. This is what the private sector is looking at. And for the last 7 years, in succession, the issue of water has been one of the top 5 risks to the global economy. This is not just in Africa, this is around the world. So we have choices. Because this is the daily picture that we see, not just in Africa, but all around the world. The threat of a water shortage. So let's just take a side step. The man in the middle is Ramesh Machar. He is, or was, the Director General of the CSIR in India, a very good friend of the CSIR in South Africa, and he has spent a lot of time on the African continent talking about different ways of doing things. And he emphasizes this matter, that you don't only do different things, because we're all keen on new innovations, but even the current things that we do, we have to do them differently. And he illustrated it with this following set of slides that I borrowed. So this is a scene, it might be Sweden, because it looks cold, outside a pub, I think it was a pub. And late one evening, maybe after the Stockholm Junior Water Prize, people went for a few tipples afterwards, didn't have enough lights on, and ended up in the bay. And so what kicks in is what we all do in the water sector. We kick in the engineering solution. There's a car in the bay, we need to take the car out, so we get a crane. We do our calculations, we say the car weighs so much, this is the power of the crane, no problem. The difficulty here is they didn't calculate into that the 1 ton of water that's gone into the car, and they start pulling it out, and lo and behold, the crane doesn't work. So what do we classically do in this scenario? We say, well, the problem is a simple one. We just need a bigger crane. So off we go, we get the bigger crane, and of course he can pull out the car, and he pulls out the load, and we're going hunky-dory, and we say, well, while we have the bigger crane here, let's take the other crane out. So if you keep addressing the problem in exactly the same way, you cannot expect a different result. You cannot. If you say that you're going to use the current sanitation access, for example, and extend all of the grids so that you get ourselves to 8 billion people around the world with access to sanitation, you will get the same result. You have to be thinking about doing it a completely different way. So in this we must explore what is the wedge of threats and what are the wedges of opportunities, and I think we'll hold that for the discussion time if there are some discussion around it. I just want to get straight to the point around how we're changing thinking. You recognize the person in the picture. She's my boss. She smiles in the morning, but around midday, you should stay away from her and reconnect with her in the evening. But she is not just the Minister of Water and Sanitation in South Africa. That's the paying job to pay the mortgage. She is, in fact, one of the global leaders around reining in what is called the sanitation revolution. And yes, indeed. And at the center of that sanitation revolution is recognizing that the way we currently do sanitation services is in fact madness. We use drinking quality water, 6 liters at least, to flush down 200 grams of waste in your toilet to move 1 meter into the sewage system. This is at the same time that 2 billion people around the world don't have access to that water. It is absolute madness. So what we're introducing is this concept of sanity. So we're going to bring some sanity to engage this madness in the form of the Sanitation Transformation Initiative. And this is the new way of doing things. We started this discussion in the first Africa Focus session yesterday, talking about dry sanitation, talking about core flush sanitation, talking about decentralized waste treatment. This is the future. And Africa has a choice yet again. We can either follow the rest of the world, as we have done on too many other issues, and fail to ride the wave, or we can paddle out in front and leapfrog the rest of the world and organize to help to lead the rest of the world and ride the front of the wave. This is the opportunity that exists, and if we don't engage it, that is the threat that exists. And we've done some really marvelous things. This invention doesn't come from Sweden. I like Sweden, but it doesn't come from Sweden. It doesn't come from Europe. It doesn't come from North America. It comes from the African continent. This is one of the smartest ways to use flush systems currently in the world. It works on a very, very simple principle that you know about in nature. In nature, water does not flow in a straight line, right? It moves in a vortex. That's what gravity does. And yet, we've been designing flush systems to have water move in a straight line for the last 200 years. This is called an arum loop because it's shaped like an arum lily, and that's exactly what it does. It organizes for a vortex to move the water down and flush the system. Net result is you can use half a liter of water on that flush. It's absolutely amazing. It comes out of the African continent. Africa has the ability to lead. But going further, we've been engaging in this conversation for the whole week. And for those of you who have been in the African and the global conversations, we've been engaging in this conversation for a long, long time. The problem we have is that we have many great candidate solutions on the African continent in so many areas. Whether you're talking about vaccines, or reverse osmosis systems, or anything. But we don't have the ability to scale up. Well, we presented this problem to the South African government. And the result was this. There's a thing called the Industrial Policy Action Plan, which is our prioritization of our industrialization policy 3 years at a time, and said water and sanitation needs to be in the center of it. Cabinet said, yes, you can have it, please make sure you use it wisely. So for the next 3 years in South Africa, water and sanitation is going to be one of the priority industrialization centers, which means that we will have priority with all of the public instruments like the PIC and the IDC, which controls our public purse, around incentivizing the development of an industrial platform, to develop bankable projects to bring in other investors so that we can actually have manufacturing capacity in all these domains in the South African context, in the African context, and we can bring in other partners. We don't want to exclude anyone, but Africa can lead. So these are the priority areas that currently is there. And I'm sure the ministers here today are going to want to talk about this in the AMCAR context around how to organize this kind of structure and this kind of model for the whole of the African continent, because this is where we want the whole continent to be. So starting at number one, of course, we have to develop out this industrialization plan. It's not far from complete, and we will be happy to share it with you, but we pulled out some very specific areas to start. And that's particularly significant for the conversation we're having here today. The first is innovative desalination. We want to organize for desalination not just along the coast, but with the many brackish aquifers that we have around this continent, to have not just the